Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, lawmakers call for airport upgrades.
It's nightmarish, no? Seeing the people sprawled on the floor, sleeping. It was really a chaos, no?
This after the NAIA runway mishap leaves thousands of passengers stranded.
Na-stress dahil ang dami pong tao dahil nga sa nangyari.
That's life. Sometimes you got bad luck, sometimes you're lucky.
Also, the multi-million ad deals that led to a Senate investigation.
I don't think lulusot sa plan.
Bakit po?
Kasi hindi naman ako nag-amass ng wealth.
And the much-anticipated reopening of the world-famous Boracay.
We'll be giving a surprise for those who will be coming back because they will see a new and better Boracay.
Tourism Chief Berna Romulo-Puyat joins us live. And later, rediscover Manila through the country's oldest train line. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Airport officials say the situation at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport is getting better. A Chinese passenger plane skidded off the runway last week, leaving thousands of passengers stranded and a number of flights canceled. Also, the rehabilitation of Boracay Island is in full swing, but is the island ready for its scheduled reopening on October 26? Let's go straight to the source of the story, Tourism Chief Berna Romulo-Puyat. Secretary,
yes.
Good to have you on the show.
Yes, good morning, Pinky.
Welcome. So much to talk about, Secretary. I know that what happened in NAIA obviously should be addressed to many other agencies such as the DOTR and all. But of course, this has an effect on tourism. I wanted to ask you, was there anyone or what kind of complaints were you hearing, or did anyone seek assistance from the DOT regarding what happened?
Well, a lot of people, I was seeing it on social media, and a lot of friends reached out to me. So, as Secretary Tugade said, it was an incident that, that nobody wanted. And he apologized for the incident. And of course, I saw, in internet, social media, you were seeing the chaos. And I support Secretary Tugade when he said that we need to improve on the policies, procedures, and protocols when these things happen. So it was like as what he said, it was an eye opener.
Yeah, I guess that was one of the revelations.
Yes.
By the public, that unfortunately we weren't ready for such a situation, because reports are saying that even in Clark was also in chaos because flights were being diverted. You said your friends, their flights have been delayed,
yes.
some by 1 or 2 days. What needs to be done from here on, you feel?
As Secretary Tugade said, they will be improving, they will be looking at all the protocols involved. And I think what's more important is this doesn't happen again. So, and I believe that, this was, again, as he said, it was an eye-opener.
Yeah, and they really need to study this. Is there a plan to kind of meet among agencies that could possibly be involved in this?
I think that's up to the DOTR, but then the DOT is with the CAB, and different airports, Manila International Airport, Clark. And so we will be included. Probably when we meet, we will be taking this up.
But there's no scheduled meeting just yet.
Not for the DOT. I still believe this is still a DOTR issue.
Tourist arrival, though, you think could this possibly affect tourism arrival? In the
I
Philippines?
hope not, because at least this only happened once, and I believe that we will not allow this to happen again.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's a promise possibly that we're all wanting from the DOTR. When we talk about we're talking about tourist arrivals, can you just at least give us a brief data on the kind of tourist arrivals we've had the past year?
Actually, for this June, tourism arrivals increased by 11.35% compared to June of last year. I was actually surprised, honestly, because I thought that it would go down because of the closure of Boracay.
Right.
But it actually increased by 11.35%, and the first 6 months it actually also increased.
And you attribute this to what? I know you barely warmed the seat, but yes.
No, I think it's also well, it's because of the private sector. Right away when they knew that Boracay would close or was closed, they diverted their flights to other tourist destinations like Cebu, Bohol, Siargao,
Yeah.
so in Palawan.
Yeah.
So it was like a good synergy between the government and the private sector. So right away, but of course I owe this to the private sector because they immediately looked for alternative sites.
So it's safe to say that even with the closure of Boracay, tourist arrivals increased.
It increased, yes,
Yeah.
it did. The numbers don't lie, it increased. But of course, with the opening of Boracay, syempre, it will increase further.
And let's talk about that. You were in Boracay
Yes.
recently. Well, how can you assess the situation? How do you assess it now?
Okay, I was there. I really wanted to go. I really wanted to go without Secretary Simato and Secretary Anyo because I wanted to see it for myself. I first looked at Bulabog Beach. That's where we have a 1.1 billion project, the TIEZA. The TIEZA has a project. TIEZA is under the DOT. And I wanted to see if we were on track, and we are on track. Then I went to the Puka Beach, and then the White Beach or the Long Beach. So I wanted to check it for myself, if it was indeed ready for opening October 26. Well, at least when I went to Bulabog Beach, the water was crystal clear. I think you were there a week before me, and before it was quite brown. Now, and there's no smell when I went there. So at least I know we are on track when it comes to TIEZA and in cooperation with the DPWH.
So that's Bulabog Beach.
Bulabog Beach.
That's one. You went to two others. Puka's always been, but I know they removed the shanties. It's very clean, it's very beautiful. And then, of course, it's a Long Beach, White Beach.
Yeah, they call it two names. Of course, it was Habagat when I went there.
Yeah.
So it was more of, there were a lot of people, but more of the residents.
Yeah.
They were there.
Sila lang yung nagsiswimming
Yeah,
doon.
they were
a few of them.
enjoying,
Yeah.
yes. But it just looked beautiful,
Yeah.
seeing it that way. And then there were a lot of like, it was moved backwards, so now you see more
Easement.
sand.
Yeah.
The easement.
Yes. And Sec Simatu saying that Boracay will open on October 26. Can you confirm this to us?
Yes. We had a meeting last Friday, and then I told him that I had just been to Boracay, and then we both agreed, and he will be announcing it. I feel that he should be the one to formally announce it, that it will open October 26. But I think that it should be a soft opening. Because, you cannot rehabilitate an island in 6 months. You were there, it's on track, everything's on track, but it needs time.
Yeah, when you look at the roads really that were being built there, the main road is a total of around 8 kilometers, Secretary, and the circumferential road, yung sa likod, is about 5 kilometers. So, Sec Simato already saying that in the main road, they will only open, that's actually the DPWH that told us, they're only going to open from Cagban Port to, they said, the Elizalde property. Yung
Yes.
parang kalahati pa lang yung magagawa. So, that is in accordance, I guess, with the 6-month rehabilitation
Yeah,
plan.
because there are phases. So we are on track with this phase, with this first phase.
Okay.
It can open. Of course, we have already we have a one-stop shop in Boracay, DILG, DENR, and DOT.
Yeah.
And it's ongoing, and a lot of, I met with the stakeholders, and they asked me to ask the DENR if they could extend the one-stop shop, and he agreed.
Yes.
They also asked if they could be more people to man the one-stop shop, and he also agreed. Samato is quite easy to talk to, so he extended.
So the question is, if it's a soft opening, what does that mean for the tourists who may want to visit Boracay already and the resort owners? What's a soft opening?
Soft opening meaning that they have complied with the 3 agencies, the requirements of the 3 agencies, DENR, DOT, and DILG, 100% complied. So, and at the rate it's going, we're seeing about 3,000 rooms to be opened. And as I believe, Sec Simato also said that he will be announcing the carrying capacity of the island. So we will be discussing on how to implement the carrying capacity.
Yeah. There has to be a formula to that.
There has to be a formula and how to do it to limit the number of visitors in the island.
But it's clear that, can we repeat that? 3,000 rooms
Minimum
can be
of
available.
3,000 rooms, yes.
Will be available on October
Based on
26.
when we on the one-stop shop, we
Yeah.
think that 3,000 rooms would have been 100% compliant.
So if it's 3,000 rooms, would you know how many establishments that would be?
We don't look at it a week kasi it could be station 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
any, as long as could be beachfront, could be not the
Pwede sa likod.
beachfront. Yes, yes.
So basta 3,000 rooms so far.
In the minimum
for
of 3,000.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know, it's always best to do a soft opening to check first.
Yeah.
At least it will be opened, and you know, really, 6 months is really a short time to rehabilitate an island that has been, heavily, state of calamity nga.
Yes. Secretary Cimatu was the one who told us that it will be the DOT, that is you, to announce it to the world. That's what he told us, that Boracay will open. So there's supposed to be an interagency task force meeting.
We're meeting this Wednesday. He will be announcing, we will be discussing guidelines, we will be discussing the carrying capacity and how to go about it.
Yeah. So maybe by Thursday, there will be some sort of an announcement.
Maybe I think it still should be the three of us because yes.
Okay, pero pag mangyari ho yun, also, Secretary Cimatu saying that, the 6-month period is for the opening, as you mentioned, soft opening, but this is really a contract with the DOT, the DILG, the DENR for 2 years, he said.
Yes.
Dalawang taon daw to.
Yes.
What can we expect, Secretary Berna, from after 6 months onwards? Kasi one of the questions is that, how can you sustain it? People may be happy seeing it now, but we saw Boracay, Secretary, empty.
Yes.
What happens when there are actually people
That's why
there?
it's very important that the establishments that are opened are 100% compliant with environmental laws. Very important, because the reason why this happened to Boracay was because permits were given when they were not environmentally compliant.
Right.
So that's very important, and the carrying capacity is quite important. Because you can't have too many people. Like in other countries, they really put a limit to the number of tourists entering the island.
Do you think that will be permanent?
I think it should be, because it cannot be. You cannot have too many people in an island.
It's very interesting, though, Secretary, really to find out what the carrying capacity will be.
Yes.
Do we know how? We understand that 2 million people visited Boracay last year.
Yes.
So, but it's kind of hard to divide that on an accurate way, because there would be habagat where there are less people and the
Correct.
summer na punong-puno. But it's really interesting to find out ilan ho ba ang kayang.
I know.
Diba?
I'm actually, we were discussing it last Friday with Sec Cimatu, and he
Right.
said that he will tell us by Wednesday.
Yeah. And if I understand that that's to come, but ganun ho ba yun na on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, yun ang carrying capacity? Paano ho kaya yun?
That's what we're going to be discussing
All
on
right.
Wednesday.
Okay, we'll get more information on that after the interagency meeting on Wednesday. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up after the Senate probe on the multi-million peso deal between the Tourism Department and PTV4, will a plunder case versus former Tourism Secretary Wanda Teo prosper? Tourism Chief Berna Romulo-Puyat will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Tourism Chief Berna Romulo-Puyat. Secretary, during the break, we were talking about a possible law that will oversee not just Boracay. We're talking about all the other beautiful islands, tourist destinations in the Philippines. Do you agree that a law should be passed on a possible agency that should be on top of the LGUs?
Yes. From 1973 to 1991, Boracay was actually under the PTA, which was under the Department of Tourism. So I believe that there is a law filed in the Senate asking that it revert back to the national government and not be under the LGU.
You agree with that?
I agree with it. I completely agree with it.
So it was just eventually devolved to
Because
the
of the
LGU.
local government
I
code.
see.
That's why it was transferred
Yeah.
to the LGUs.
It becomes their responsibility, and yung
Yes.
earnings kasi, yeah, all right, so that happens. So it's about time that there's a board or there's an agency to look into
To oversee,
all.
at least,
Yeah.
to oversee that. I think what happened to Boracay was permits were given without the proper ECCs. So at least that because when it was handled by the DOT, Boracay was clean. It didn't happen. But for me, I think it should not only be with the DOT, but also with the DENR and the DILG,
Yeah.
because they're the ones that can enforce the law.
Right. But all under that possible department
Yes,
that
yes.
will be formed. All right, so let's move on to the TV ads. We saw you at the Senate very recently. I believe that was last week. Number one question is, do you think the money should be returned?
Well, as any taxpayer, I was very concerned because that's more than 60 million. But according to the Constitution and applicable laws, the audit and the investigation of these contracts to make the persons accountable lie with the Commission on Audit and the Ombudsman.
I see, yeah.
So, what the DOT, what I pledge to do is we will cooperate with the COA
Yeah.
and the Ombudsman.
So I guess you don't really want to answer if the money should be returned because it's up to the
Because
ombudsman
it's
to make.
really, because according to I'm going by the Constitution, when you say, the one who will hold the persons accountable are the COA and the Ombudsman.
And the ombudsman, it's on fact-finding stage at
Yes,
least.
it is already.
Yeah,
This is
during
already with the
Ombudsman Morales.
Ombudsman,
Yeah.
but I promise, and not only me, but the whole DOT, will promise to cooperate
Yeah.
with the Ombudsman.
During the Senate investigation, though, it came out that it was more than 60 million. It was
Yes.
about 120 million, but not all was fulfilled or was...
I think there's a disallowance of 114 million. So, because it was already stopped. So there was a notice of disallowance. And that's why I actually told those, the ones in the DOT given a notice of disallowance to answer.
yeah. So it came out at about 114. During the hearing, the numbers were a little confusing. But from what I remember, PTV4 was saying that out of 100 plus million, about 84 million went to BTAG of Ben Tulfo. And the rest went to PTV4. But there was one question that was raised that I wanted to bring up with you. They were asking why a block timer should be getting commercials from PTV instead of a block timer looking for their own commercials. Is there any reaction you have
Actually,
on this?
maybe it's best to ask PTV for that.
Okay. All right. So even if they don't return the money, the tourism
Well,
department will carry on, obviously.
Well, because
without that.
our work is to promote the country. But as I've said, we have been cooperating with the COA and the Ombudsman.
And it's not the responsibility, I take it, Secretary, that the DOT will file charges against?
It's the Ombudsman that files charges.
Okay, how can you assure then that a similar incident?
Yeah.
Will not happen
We've been
again.
working closely with the Commission on Audit. We've been strengthening our internal audit system because when I came, there was nothing to speak of.
What do you mean?
When you have to have an internal audit system to safeguard the money that the DOT has. So we're strengthening it in cooperation with the Commission on Audit. And we've already set in place guidelines with regard to financial sponsorships. Like we've set a cap already of 1 million only for financial sponsorship. And then, for example, the next year, it will only be 500,000. And then the following year, the third year, 250,000 and tapos na.
What do you mean by financial sponsorship?
Financial sponsorship, like for example, before the DOT could just give 100 million, 80 million without going through procurement. But what the COA advised us to put guidelines in place and we follow them.
I guess the question is, Secretary, are you still going to advertise with certain...
Yes.
Okay.
What we will be doing is we will be bidding out a media buying agency. So that media buying agency will be the ones to decide on where to put the commercials. So because the media buying agency is very scientific They will know what are the top raters, what's bagay for the Department of Tourism.
Right. And
So,
where you can get also good exposure.
good exposure
possibly,
and a better deal.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I have no more discretion.
Wala ka doon.
Wala.
Tatanggalin mo na yung sarili mo
Tatanggalin ko.
from that. All right. So there's another point here. We had Secretary Wanda Teo, former Secretary Wanda Teo. Another issue that she is ready to defend, she says, is the duty-free expense of about it. Reports were saying 4 million, but Secretary Teo was saying it's really just 3 million. So tell us the situation. From what I understand, 50% of earnings of duty-free
Yes.
actually goes to the tourism department. Okay.
Yes. What we did in response, because there was an AOM, an audit observation memo from the COA, asking us about that. So in response, what we did was we removed all the gate passes. The meaning of the gate pass is, like, if I have a gate pass, I can just go to the duty-free and then just withdraw.
Withdraw meaning get goods.
Get goods, etc.
Pwede ka kumuha ng TV, kung ano man yun nandun.
Yes, and then, but I removed that already. The board and I approved the removal of the gate passes completely. Nobody can have that anymore.
So what are you going to do with the 50% earnings coming from the duty-free now? Because according to former Sec Wanda Teo, they used 3 million or 2 million probably to buy certain electronics and other goods to give to sponsorships of corporate events.
That's why the Commission on Audit asked us to make guidelines on what can be used for that 50%.
Okay.
So there's already there's a committee, and there are guidelines. What are tourism-related events?
What are
or
tourism-related events? I guess the question is this, Sec. Will you still be able to, not you, the tourism department?
No more.
Wala na,
Go to the
yung-
duty-free, no more na. We removed that already. The duty-free, I and the duty-free board removed that already.
So you can't pull out anything
No
at
more,
all.
no
Yeah. What are
more.
you? Then how about the remittance of the 50% coming from?
It goes to the DOT. It normally, kasi this is like, it goes to the DOT, and then there's a board. We have a lot of proposals that come in, and there's a board that
We'll decide on that.
identifies what are projects that will promote the country. So
I see.
very, very specific. Very
Okay.
specific.
All right. Cesar Montano update. Also,
Okay.
Secretary, please. Can you give us an update on that? He
Okay, there was
resigned.
an AOM, again, by the Commission on Audit. We have already answered it regarding the Buhay Karinderya. So we are just waiting for the COA to reply to the AOM.
Parang usong-usong AOM since napasok
Oo
na
nga eh, oo
tourism
nga eh,
department.
oo nga. But you know, AOM actually is not actually a bad thing.
Okay.
Because it's like a reminder of the COA na medyo may pagkukulang ka dito, dapat ito ginawa mo, this is the process that you should have made.
Yeah.
And I actually like it because it keeps you on your toes, and you know, the COA is also there really to help us protect our funds.
And more fun in the Philippines. It stays.
It's still, that's why I said, di ba, in spite of all the things that have happened in the DOT, wow, it's still more fun in the Philippines.
Pinagsama mo naman yung wow
Oo,
Philippines. and
para
it's more
masaya si
fun.
Senator Gordon.
Well, but more fun in the Philippines
It's
stays.
still
Of
more
course, that's
in the
Secretary
Philippines.
Jimenez back
Yes,
then.
it's still Secretary Mon Jimenez because I believe in continuity.
Yeah.
We started that 2012, and there's no reason for me to change it because it's a good slogan, and it doesn't mean na kung bagong secretary, bagong slogan. Dapat continuity.
Okay, last, how about campaign ads? Are you readying campaign ads? Because some of them are also very...
Yes, we are. First, we are bidding out the media buying agency, so we know where to put our ads. And then we are talking to a group of creative people. Actually, they're doing it pro bono.
Oh, okay, that's good.
You know what I love about the DOT? A lot of people want to help. Because for
You wanna
love of
promote the
country.
Philippines,
Yes, because I
obviously,
think
yeah.
when it comes to tourism, people just want to help because it's the country.
And it's something that you've been doing, even at
Yes.
when you were
Yes, when you interviewed me when I was with the
Agriculture.
Department of Agriculture, yes.
Yeah, you've been there for quite a while. Last, Madrid Fusion, is that also
It will push
pushing
through April of next year.
next year?
Yes.
All right, so I know there's so much more work for you. We wish you luck, and of course, we're waiting for the carrying capacity.
Yes,
That's
this
one
is
of the bigger
Wednesday.
issues now
Wednesday.
that we will be discussing. So we'll probably probably get more confirmation and we'll finalize more of the details a day after Wednesday or maybe by Friday. Secretary, we wish you luck. Of course.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for guesting
Thank
on
you
our
very
show. Maraming salamat. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Embark on a journey and get a glimpse of Manila's old beauty using a train line. That's for today's In Focus. Time now for today's In Focus here on The Source. A new tourism campaign wants you to rediscover Manila using LRT1 as the main mode of transportation. Ikot Manila is a walking tour that highlights tourist spots that are within walking distance from LRT1's 20 stations. With the help of some popular tourist operators, tourists can choose from among different unique tour packages from agricultural, cultural to gastronomic experiences. Every book tour will also be under the care of an accredited guide from the tour operators. The Light Rail Manila Corporation is also working on an Ikot Manila mobile app to guide tourists roaming the city. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. Gusto ko lang isingit kasi they were asking pa paano daw yung carrying capacity. Talagang ang daming tanong doon, baka daw they book na tapos hindi.
Well, I think that they shouldn't book until they know that the hotel is compliant.
That's a good suggestion.
Yes. And again,
Okay.
another suggestion is that once we know that they're compliant with the 3 agencies, we give out the names of the hotels.
Yes. Diba manggagaling na lang sa kanila yun? Parang they're accredited
Yes.
by the 3 agencies.
Yes.
Thank you again, Secretary. Thank you. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.